Are you ready?
I'm ready. Here we go. We're on. We are live from Van Nuys, downtown Van Nuys. We are live.
Hello, Tony.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing well. One of us had a birthday.
Yeah, one of us had a birthday. Well, both of us had a birthday.
I know.
Mine was yesterday. Yours was
Last Thursday.
last Thursday.
Yeah, we're 1 year older, but not quite 1 year wiser.
Yeah, well, the wise will come, right?
Yeah, probably when we're dead.
Yeah. Not to be appreciated in this lifetime.
How do you feel?
Good. Actually, it's crazy because I don't know how you're supposed to feel when you get to a certain age. I wouldn't say how old, okay? But when you get to a certain age, I don't know how you're supposed to feel, but I don't feel that age. I love that. A man of a certain age.
Men of a certain age. Even that show didn't last.
Because they were
Nobody cared.
They're men of a certain age. Nobody cared.
Nobody cared that
Which
they were
was
a certain
actually
age.
a good show.
Well,
I
it was a
love
very
that
good
show.
show for that one season.
Scott Bakula,
Ray Romano.
Ray Romano.
And the late Andre Barber.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great show.
It was it last 2 seasons?
I think it only lasts one season.
Was it only one season? Damn. Yeah.
Men of a certain age.
Men of a certain age was nobody was interested.
It was the title. They should have changed that title. 3 men. There you go. No, men of all ages.
Yeah.
That's funny. But we're now living in a time where we're seeing movies that we grew up with now becoming. We talked about this earlier in the show. Becoming classical films, and now we're watching movies that we saw in the theater now having anniversaries and stuff like that.
Well, it's that was 20 years ago?
Yeah.
No, that can't be 20 years ago.
You mean the movie that I thought I saw just a few years ago?
Exactly.
10 years
Yeah,
ago?
exactly. You're thinking 5, 6 years
it
ago.
was
And that was
decade?
like a whole 10 years ago?
Yeah. So
Well, especially when you're talking to a younger person and they go, "Oh, I won't watch anything more than 15 years or 10 years ago."
I just want to slap them.
Yeah.
I just want to slap them. It's just they annoy me. But so it's 2024, and we figured that this would be a good time to maybe bring out maybe a movie or two where they're celebrating an anniversary. And since we're heading towards the end of the year, I'll be
another year, right?
I know. Don't get me started. I'll be the first to kind of bring out a movie that is celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to go to the screening, the 50th anniversary celebration of Blazing Saddles with Mel Brooks there. And I knew I had to go because I'm a big
How
Mel
old
Brooks
is Mel
fan.
now?
Mel Brooks is, I think, 90. I think he's 99 or 98.
Isn't that insane? And the guy he seems to have the energy of a 50-year-old.
Oh, no, no. Dude, in his interview, because he was on stage and he was talking about the making of Blazing Saddles, it was so moving and sad at the same time because every cast member he talked about, be it Cleavon Little or Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, Harvey Keitel. Harvey Korman.
That's a completely different. That's a completely different than Blazing Saddles.
Harvey Keitel and Blazing Saddles. No,
I want to kind of see that actually.
No, if Harvey Keitel was he thinking of Harvey Korman, Hedy Lamarr, that's a totally different movie. But Harvey Korman, but everyone that he talked about passed away.
Yeah.
And there were moments he'd start crying because it was affecting him. And it was just wild.
Well, he's like the last one.
He is the last one.
Literally the last one.
I mean, Terry Garr, the late, great Terry Garr passed away just recently. Yeah. And I think she was in her 90s or something like that. So it's Cloris Leachman. That movie was also co-written by Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
It was talk about a movie that was ahead of its time. And
could they make that movie today?
The question is, hell no. Hell no. But I would say this.
Right.
If they did make this movie today, it would get a lot of heat, but it would still be funny as fuck.
Yeah.
And even though some would protest, will still be laughing because the jokes were timeless. They were funny.
Because they were real.
And they were real.
They were real.
And it was at a time where they got it. They understood what the
assignment was. And it was racy back then. I remember when that movie came out, there was a lot of controversy about that film when it came out.
But he tagged everybody.
Yeah.
He tagged everybody. Nobody was spared, Yeah. I mean, and obviously having a black sheriff, the Cleavon Little character, which which was originally,
Richard Pryor was supposed to play that role, yeah.
But they couldn't finance the film with Pryor on it.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Exactly. So they had him and Mel. Mel would talk about. There's a moment. I see if I can find it, but there's a moment where Mel Brooks talked about opening. Richard Pryor had to go somewhere, so instead of doing a stand-up, he had Mel do a stand-up. And I think Mel said he led with, I grew up as with a black grandma, and because I was Richard act, and he didn't change a word of it. But it was funny to watch that. But as I was watching it, I had to convince my niece Lainey who didn't really like the movie, and
Was she offended?
Well, I think she was less offended than some other people, the younger generation that was watching it. But she got that there was a story there, because it was a story, and it still was about character.
Yeah,
and it was about and that's a movie that was about inclusion.
And see, the perfect example.
Yeah, that was a
Blazing Saddles is a message movie.
That's a message movie.
That
was the original woke movie before woke was ever a
totally.
thing.
But it was bringing up a mirror in front of everybody.
Yes,
showing all of the. And the thing about it was so over the top and outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
That you laughed at it, but at the same time, as you're laughing at it, you go, there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to all of that.
I mean, but it also showed, too, that we were living in a time where we could make racist jokes at each other, particularly if you knew the person. Friends would do that all the time. But it did feel like there was a certain understanding that we all know what it was about.
Right.
We get it. We were in on it.
It wasn't in a hurtful manner.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to hurt the other person. You're kind of, there's a difference between trying to hurt somebody and just kind of, rib them.
You're ribbing them, and the movie ribs every ethnic group in the movie. And I mean, look, and the fact that they satirize Hollywood. Yeah. I mean, look, for me, and it still gets me, when they pulled away from the Western set and then they burst into the musical, the all-gay musical and stuff with Dom DeLuise. Yeah. I'm just sitting there like, this is freaking brilliant. This is just like awesome. So, and then the audience, all were laughing. Everybody was cracking jokes. There was a moment, though, where I looked around and realized I think I might be the only black guy in the audience.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I saw one other brother, and I was like, okay. But I thought Cleavon Little did an excellent job. Gene Wilder, who replaced Gig Young, who was the Waco Kid. I mean, so you had a black and a Jew that were there. And
what's amazing about that was 50 years ago.
That was 50 years. Dude, you know how popular that movie was? I saw that movie not in a theater when I was growing up. I saw it on television. CBS used to play it.
Wow.
Not only did CBS used to play it, but they would play it uncut.
Interesting.
Yeah, they would play it with all the swear words.
Wow.
And all the N-words and stuff like that. I was watching that, but I recognized then, this is funny, because I was laughing at it and I understood the context behind it.
Right.
Now, I don't think you would make a movie like that because we don't live in that world anymore.
Right.
But
I don't think it was ever mean-spirited.
No.
The movie was never mean-spirited. And I think that, there's a fine line maybe of your intentions, when you do comedy like that. And you can be, maybe a little bit mean-spirited about it, and that can come off as not so funny, but
well, it's funny because
offensive.
I wanted to share it with the Gen Z crowd on it, and their reaction. My reaction to their reaction was priceless, because they were laughing, but they're laughing in horror. They're laughing right at
They can't believe that they're laughing at it?
Yeah, they were just like, oh my goodness. And then at the end, they were like, oh, Mel Brooks should be canceled. Mel Brooks, they should. And eventually, I was able to get around to like, okay, guys, here's the thing. But I think there's that sub part of, I think there's a part where people, especially in the younger generation, the part that wants to cancel everything that's gone before, see, that stuff bothers me, because it's like, no, you don't learn history by canceling history. You learn it by watching it, understanding, keep it in context. But also, if you are laughing, and if you can come out of it and say, yeah, there was a story there, then you at least understand that this is a 50-year-old movie. And by the way, that 50-year-old movie still holds up today than it did 50 years ago.
What I don't understand is how you want to dismiss or completely eradicate and erase historical culture. I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon at that time. So
big hit.
Yeah, but say what you will, you're trying to erase the past.
Yeah.
This is okay. People didn't think the way you think
50 years
ago,
exactly.
or 100 years ago, or 200 years ago.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily make them bad people. You know, I mean, yeah, there were still bad people back then, right? Of course,
sure,
you know, I mean, there were bad people, but I don't remember we ever did that when we were younger.
No.
You know, or anybody before us. I don't remember ever looking at the past and going, I kind of, even, you know, looking back, you know, and movies, you know, about the past and stuff like that, and seeing things that I thought, oh, that was terrible. That was so injustice. I understood that was then.
Let me tell you something. There's a lot of racist movies in the past
that
I could look at and go, oh, that's fucked up.
Oh,
never once did I ever think cancel.
Yeah.
Never once because you got to know your history.
Yeah.
And it also lets you know where you're at. And if you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
And that's why I like what I love about film and cinema, because cinema is only literally maybe 5-6 years old right now or something along those lines. It's just you got to keep things in proper context. And I think too many times this new generation don't, you know. And I think and you're right. I think that was and I think that's the reason why something like a movie like Blazing Saddles was even made in the first place, be as relevant as it was, be as funny as it was, and still use racist humor in a way that wasn't racist. In a way that showed how stupid racism is in that movie, to a point where we can laugh at it. We can laugh and at each other, and at the same time recognize that we have something in common with each other. And again, it was great writing.
And I mean, as a caveat to that, you had, you know, Young Frankenstein came out that same year, and that was another one that, for its time, was pretty racy. I mean,
1974,
the sexual,
back to back.
They had a lot of sexual innuendos in that movie, of course. I mean, one of the great lines of all time, right?
What knockers?
What knockers? You know, oh, thank you. You know, I mean,
it's like, Igor, would you take care of the bag? Well, you take the blonde, I'll take the one in the turban. You know? I mean,
but it was all in fun.
Frankenstein has his way with Mel and Khan's character. Stuff that you couldn't believe they were getting away with, but it worked so well. But I think the thing that would make Young Frankenstein great, such a great movie, also was it knew its genre. Yeah. It was very dedicated to the Frankenstein story.
Yeah.
And it treated it very seriously, even though it was a comedy.
Well, what's interesting about that is if you look at Young Frankenstein and you look at the movie that it's actually based on, which was it Son of Frankenstein?
Yeah.
The Son of Frankenstein. It's almost verbatim. It's almost the same movie.
Even with the guy with the arm, with the wooden arm and stuff like that. The Son of Frankenstein, his kid had wild curly hair. It could have been Gene Wilder as a kid.
Exactly. And you look at even Airplane. Airplane was based on a John Wayne movie. But if you look at that movie, it is the same film as Airplane. To the point where there's actual dialogue that they lifted from that movie and put in Airplane. But the way they deliver it makes it over the top and makes it funny. And Young Frankenstein did that same thing. If you look at The Son of Frankenstein, there's lines that they have in that film that they actually have in Young Frankenstein. But the way they deliver the line and just those inflections makes it completely different.
What's your favorite scene in Young Frankenstein?
Oh God, so many of them. But I would have to say, for me, probably one of my favorite scenes, and one that made me probably laugh harder than anything, goes, no matter what happens, do not open this door.
No matter what you hear.
What you hear. Right. Don't open this door. And of course he goes in, and within 5 seconds he's going to let me out.
Yeah. Okay, open the goddamn door. I'll bust your fucking heads in. I know, it's great. It's great. That's also, you know, because I actually watch Young Frankenstein on my birthday.
Oh, cool.
And so when I was watching that, what I was really impressed with was the visual style.
Imagery is awesome in that movie.
There's that shot in the laboratory. They found a lot of the old equipment from the original Frankenstein movie, but there's a shot where Wilder does the monologue.
Yeah.
and he goes up, and just the shadow of him going up, and he's talking about, penetrating the very womb of Mother Nature herself. I'm just like, God damn, that's a hell of a monologue.
Yeah.
And then life, give my creation life.
Yeah.
He was always with those crazy eyes and stuff like that. It's just such a visually good-looking movie, and it's just.
Well, what's interesting, and I think great comedy does this, right? You got to swing for the fences. You got to go all the way, right? And I will say the movies of the 70s and the 80s, the comedies back in those days, especially, you go into your Caddyshacks, your Animal House, your Blues Brothers. High Anxiety is another Mel Brooks movie that I love. That's a spoof on the Psycho and Hitchcock films.
Right.
Those movies almost had no shame. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like we're going to go there, whether you like it or not. We're going to go there. If I offend you, fuck you. We think it's pretty funny. You
remember? I sent you a clip. I don't know if you saw it, but it was Robert Stack. Was he the guy? He's the guy in Airplane.
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah,
was the scene where he's walking the airport and everybody's approaching him?
Right.
Would you like a flower? And he's pushing him away. Hey, Jehovah's Witness. He punches them, and he's really kicking their ass.
Right.
Well, there's one moment where he grabs one guy and then he flips around, kicks the other guy, coming back. I got to show you that. And then he knocks the guy out. It was a great introduction to his character, and I'm just like, I kept saying, how the hell did he do that at his age?
Yeah, well,
because
he probably wasn't that old, Greg. He was probably only in his 50s, or like early 50s, or maybe in late 40s at that point.
I mean, to be honest, let's be honest. Movie stars back in the 70s, 60s, and 50s
looked a lot older.
They looked a lot older than they were. You find out that they're in their 30s. I'm like, oh my God, you look like you're in your 60s or something like that. But what a year!
Wilford Brimley.
He was never young.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, when he was in Cocoon, he was only like in his 40s or something like that.
I think they did a picture of him and Tom Cruise at that.
They were the same age.
Yeah, I was like at one point in the movie, I'm like, oh, well, somebody had the good genes, someone had the old genes.
Yeah.
But no, I will say there was one moment where I think Mel Brooks talked about having an incredible year with Blazing Saddles in '74 and Young Frankenstein. Can you imagine to have that?